Okay, we have the go-ahead, so I will call to order this committee of the whole meeting of June 12th, 2025. At this point in time, I'll put out a call for declarations of interest regarding this agenda. Seeing no hands up, do we have any business arising from the minutes? Okay, we can move on then to delegations. We have one delegation this morning, so I will call up on Ms. Chevalier and Mr. Stadnik to come forward to do their deputation regarding reconsideration of the direction of local climate action. So if the deputation team would like to come forward. And we will watch the timer for you and let you know if you come to the conclusion of your timing. And what's going to happen is I'm going to shortly turn off this red mic, and then it'll be a chance for you to turn on yours. They can only operate one at a time. So we'll do it that way. And we'll hear your delegation, and then I'll put it out in case there are any questions of clarification from council members. And that will allow us to receive your information. Thank you.
There you go. We're on. We're live. Good morning, mayors and members of council. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. My name is Jennifer Chevalier, and I am a resident of Georgian Bluffs. I've lived in Grey County for nearly 3 decades now after moving here from Kitchener. I work locally as a painter and have dedicated 28 years to coaching gymnastics in Owen Sound, which has grounded me in community values and a strong sense of responsibility for the next generation. Today, I am here to express a growing concern that under the banner of climate action and sustainable development, our local decision-making is increasingly being shaped by global agendas, often without full transparency or proper public consent. Over the past few years, we have witnessed an influx of policies promoting net zero, ESG, and sustainable development. While these slogans sound admirable, they mask a deeper problem. These initiatives are being driven by international organizations, unelected institutions, and financial networks that do not answer to Canadian citizens. Grey County has already declared a climate emergency and partnered with organizations such as the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Partners for Climate Protection Program, also known as PCP, and the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives, also known as ICLEI. But we must ask, were these decisions made with the full informed consent of the people most affected? Were the long-term risks, financial implications, and broader consequences fully consulted with the public? We must recognize that Canadians never voted to be governed by global frameworks. These partnerships often tie funding and our money to ideological commitments, not practical outcomes rooted in local realities. True stewardship should be grounded in local knowledge, not global mandates. Furthermore, the idea that the science is settled is itself unscientific. Science is a process of continual questioning, testing, and refinement. Instead, what we see is the politicization of science to justify massive economic and social transformations without full public consultation. Let's be clear. Canada is already a carbon negative country when we account for our forests, wetlands, and natural carbon sinks. We are stewards of some of the cleanest air, land, and water on the planet. Vilifying carbon dioxide, a life essential gas, is neither scientifically accurate nor environmentally wise. Blanket global policies replace democratic governance with technocracy. They elevate unelected experts over citizens' voice. They tie access to infrastructure, funding, and even basic services to ideological alignment, not practical need. We are also witnessing a growing threat to Canadian sovereignty, not only from foreign comments, such as the recent remark by US President Donald Trump suggesting Canada could become the 51st state, but more insidiously, from within. Increasingly, we are seeing the encroachment of international agendas into our domestic policymaking, driven by unelected global institutions and facilitated by actors within our own government who align with these organizations. Many Canadians proudly embraced the elbows up mentality, believing it signaled resilience and strength for our country. Just months ago, we loudly declared Canada is not for sale, rejecting the idea of becoming the 51st state. But where is that fighting spirit now? When we are being pushed into compliance with policies crafted by institutions and unaccountable NGOs that owe no allegiance to Canada and bear no accountability for their impact on our lives. Surely, this is the same patriotism should apply. If we are truly committed to defending our sovereignty, we must be consistent in that defense. Whether the pressure comes from abroad or through quiet compliance with frameworks that bypass the democratic process, we are at a crossroads. Either we recommit to local governance, informed public consultation, and made in Canada solutions, or we continue down a path of external influence and diminishing local control. Therefore, I respectfully urge this council to reconsider the foundation of its climate emergency declaration. I ask that council commits to decisions grounded in robust, verifiable science and carefully consider the real-world impacts of policies like net zero on our economy, our environment, and our way of life. I strongly recommend that council direct staff to locate any motions related to Grey County's participation in the FCM Partners for Climate Protection Program and ICLEI initiatives and bring them forward for reconsideration, exercising your power of choice and your responsibility to the people you serve. At minimum, pause further implementation and conduct a full review with meaningful public consultation, open communication, and a careful reassessment of the financial, social, and environmental impacts.
Thank you once again for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dieter Stadnik, a resident of West Grey. Building on the important points just made, local over global governance, I will focus on the financial and operational burdens these global frameworks are placing on our municipalities and question whether this is truly serving the people of Grey County. Programs like the FCM's Partners for Climate Protection and ICLEI are not free programs. They come with serious hidden costs, long-term financial obligations, and operational strain. To meet all milestones in the PCP program alone, estimates range from 7.2 million to over 192 million. Money that could otherwise support critical local priorities such as infrastructure, housing, healthcare, bridges, and public services. Even the earlier milestones, such as the baseline emissions inventory, can cost municipalities between $10,000 and $50,000. Later phases, like full climate action plans, can easily exceed $1 million or more, with ongoing costs for energy efficient retrofits, municipal fleet upgrades, smart city technologies, renewable energy projects, and staff time. It's important to recognize that the Going Green in Grey Climate Action Plan is not a legislated requirement. Municipalities are not mandated by the province to create or implement climate action plans, and Grey County's involvement in the Partners for Climate Protection program only requires completion of milestone 1 to remain in good standing. While the Planning Act does require municipalities to include general climate considerations within their official plans, there is no legal obligation to dedicate additional staff time or our money to implementing non-binding climate targets or policies beyond this. Given current budget constraints and competing priorities, Council has full discretion to reassess whether continued investment of staff time and our money into the implementation of this voluntary plan is justified or in the best interest of the county. So far, publicly disclosed spending on Grey County's climate initiatives includes $250,000 to implement the Climate Action Plan, $200,000 for 20 EV chargers with a pending 50% grant application, $30,000 in consultation fees, and approximately a $10,000 fee for inter-county collaboration. totaling approximately $490,000. Grey Highlands is the only municipality that disclosed the cost of its greenhouse gas inventory at $24,000. Yet, similar data and colorful graphics appear in the Going Green in Grey plan for all 9 municipalities, suggesting similar spending that remains undisclosed. Additional costs for programs like energy audits, heat pump installations, experimental agriculture, and participation in federal partnerships and funding programs have not been itemized. Staff time, a significant expense, has also not been accounted for. Despite repeated requests to the county clerk for a full accounting, only vague budget documents have been provided, revealing a troubling lack of transparency around public spending and accountability in the implementation of this. Yet, despite this massive investment, how much of our carbon footprint has actually been reduced? How do these costs compare to measurable benefits? Where is the transparent accounting for these outcomes? This is not responsible stewardship of public money. Furthermore, liability remains a major concern. Who is liable? The FCM, ICLEI, and federal government waive all liability for any problems resulting from these programs. If costs spiral, if projects fail, or if public dissatisfaction grows, will the taxpayers be left holding the bag? And for what exactly? Canada contributes only 1.5 to 1.6% of global carbon emissions based on prevailing climate models, which rely on unproven hypothesis that anthropogenic carbon emissions are the primary driver of global temperature increases. Even if Canada were to reach net zero, the projected reduction in global temperature is estimated to be only around 0.01 to 0.02 degrees Celsius. An amount so small it would have no measurable impact on the global climate outcomes. Nevertheless, the cost of achieving net zero could range from 1.1 trillion to 2 trillion by 2050, requiring an annual expense of 125 to 140 billion from Canadians. This raises serious questions. Is this cost justified by the results? And who benefits? Our residents or the institutions driving these frameworks? When the projected climate impact is virtually undetectable, yet the financial burden is enormous, we must ask, is this truly about protecting the environment, or is it a government-driven economic agenda shaped by global institutions masquerading as environmental policy? Participation in these programs is voluntary, and that means the right to withdraw also remains on the table. Grey County is not alone in questioning these costly programs. Across the country, several municipalities have either ended their partnerships or scaled back their climate targets, recognizing the unrealistic costs and burdens these frameworks impose on local communities. You can just use Lethbridge as an example, went from 40 to 20% as their target. Given the escalating cost, the vague outcomes, and the growing public concern, it would be prudent for this council to exercise that right and refocus efforts on community-driven environmental stewardship. Real, locally rooted initiatives such as volunteer-led tree planting, supporting farmers markets, composting programs, and water conservation provide tangible environmental benefits without the bureaucratic overhead and massive financial strain. We've already collected 274 signatures supporting this reconsideration. Meanwhile, the minutes from Climate Change Task Force, as adopted in PDR CCTF 0322, claim strong public support for a climate action plan, based on only 25 people attending engagement sessions and just 11 written submissions. Is that truly reflective of our community's voice? Good governance demands meaningful consultation, not rubber stamping international agendas based on incomplete data and limited public feedback. I urge this council to reconsider participation in the FCM and ICLEI programs, prioritize local, practical, Canadian-made solutions that reflect the true needs and aspirations of Grey County residents, and invest in initiatives that our people can see, feel, and support without risking our autonomy, our money, and our way of life.
We respectfully ask this council to reconsider Grey County's climate emergency declaration and its participation in the FCM Partners for Climate Protection Program and ICLEI initiatives. These commitments were made with the best of intentions to protect our environment and secure a strong future. However, with new insights, shifting realities, and a growing concern about the broader impacts, it is both wise and courageous to re-examine our path forward. True leadership is not about never changing course. It is about having the strength to listen, to learn, and act in the best interests of the people you serve.
We believe Grey County has the opportunity to set a powerful example, one that prioritizes local stewardship, economic resilience, and democratic decision-making rooted in the voices of its residents. Together, we can build a future that reflects the unique character and true needs of our community. We respectfully urge you to lead this important conversation, and we ask that Council formally communicate how it may plan to move forward. As concerned residents, we believe timely follow-up is not only appropriate, but essential to maintaining public trust and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So at this point in time, I'll just ask that I can see on the screen our council members that are committee of the whole members that are online. While that comes up, I'll look around the room if there are any questions from the horseshoe, questions for clarification. Okay, we have a question from Councillor McQueen.
Thank you, Madam Warden. It's more of a comment in the sense that realization that I think we would all agree that the weather is changing. Would that be a fair statement? Our weather. Yeah, no, I mean, in the sense of our climate, our longer summers are, you know, as a farmer all my life, like I've seen that. I guess that's my question. Would you agree that we have seen a change in our lifestyle from the weather, from, you know, snowstorms that we used to get in the 70s to the winters that we get now today? Now, mind you, this past winter was a little bit more. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
Historically, we have seen massive changes in weather. So 1970s, for example, we were in a cold climate, a mini ice age. Now we're seeing warmer temperatures, which is something that naturally happens. We can't control it. It's up to the earth what it decides that what period it decides to be in.
I was just going to build off that. It's all also trying highlighting the connection between policies and versus impact as well. That's one thing, fair statement. And then it's another to say, well, if we spend money on this, that will change. Looking at the one infographic of the large portion of other countries, there's a global issue, other countries and their output, we are in Grey County especially dwarfed. And that's as taxpayers kind of, that's a lot of things that, well, people here in the audience are concerned with the amount of money in this pursuit that may we might be thwarted in all efforts by people in other parts of the world.
Okay, any other questions? Questions for clarification? We'll go to Councillor Greg.
Just a comment. Just want to thank you for the presentation today. We try to lead by example here and represent all the interests in the community. I see, yes, the plan is always changing. It's been changing for millions of years. It's going to be changing long after we are all gone. I see the preeminent problem that we haven't identified yet, or we've identified it, we have chosen not to realize it. But that is that we are consuming resources at a unsustainable pace. We have no idea the type of inflation that will come as we start to exhume all remaining fuel sources, and we still have our underlying needs. I think in 1980, we were the second highest per capita carbon using nation in the world. We're down 20% from 1980, according to stats, but we are still the second highest in the world in terms of per capita carbon footprint. So we here try to lead by example. I think we need to try to lead by example. We try to I hope that we continue to invest in initiatives and technologies that are going to continue to lessen our carbon footprint, which we realize is very high on the global stage, but respond in a leadership type of way that the whole planet has to change. We can't continue to bring individuals from low carbon footprint countries to live in a very expensive per capita carbon footprint country in Canada. It's a climate that is not conducive to having a low carbon footprint. It's a big, vast country that we travel everywhere across great, vast expanses of land. So there are unique challenges here. We've tried to lead by example in the past. I hope we continue to try to lead by example. But I think we have to realize that time goes by very quickly. And we have a small window of opportunities to still remaining in front of us to respond to the vast consumption of resources. We are a mature society here in Canada. You don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to realize that we have homelessness prevalent across North America. And we are watching other parts of the world start to consume way more resources than we are. And they have exponential opportunity to increase those resources. At the end of the day, it's a limited amount of resources that we're all going to be chasing. So I hope that we can all still pursue actions that limit our actual carbon footprint in a way that recognizes the limited resources for the next generation or even more so the generation after that. But thank you very much for the information presented here today.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other questions for the deputation? Okay, not seeing any further hands then. So thank you very much. And we have received your presentation for information. So we appreciate you coming in and taking the time to share that with us. Thank you. Okay, so we will go on now to determination of items requiring separate discussion. So there are a number listed in section 6. So we go all the way down to JK. We've got 11 different items in the consent agenda. So I will ask for any items that any members wish to pull. I'll begin with Councillor Greig.
I do have a couple questions regarding 6K.
6K, thank you. Any others? Okay, just check online. No hands there. Okay, so Madam Clerk, I see only 6K. Okay, so what I'll do then is I'll move on to the resolution, the motion for item 6 for the remaining, and then we will add 6K later in the agenda. It is recommended that the following consent agenda items be received and that staff be authorized to take actions necessary to give effect to the recommendations in the staff reports and that correspondence be supported or received for information as recommended in the consent agenda. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Carleton and seconded by alternate Councillor Bartley. It's now on the floor for discussion. All the items except for 6K are included in this one. Okay, seeing no hands, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. So, Clerk. Okay, so Madam Clerk, we're going to carry on with item 7 and then we'll return back to 6K. Is that correct? At the very end. Okay, thank you. So that allows us to move on to section 7, items for direction and discussion. The first one is 7A, and it's recommended that Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting minutes dated May 15th, 2025 be adopted as presented and the following resolutions contained therein be endorsed. That Councillor Scott Greig be nominated as the Vice Chair of the committee for the remainder of 2025. That report REC 25004 Dundalk Community Center McIntyre Building Accessibility Upgrades be presented to the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee for review and comment. that the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee received the report on washroom renovations on at Shallow Lake from the Township of Georgian Bluffs, and that the committee review the proposed renovations and provide advice to the township in respect to the accessibility of the washrooms, and that the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee provide review and comment of the Owen Sound Staff Report OP 25019 respecting intersection improvements options for 9th Avenue East at 6th Street East, and that the following correspondence items be received. The Owen Sound site plan approvals of ST 2024-001, which is Heritage Grove, DA 25005 Murphy Homes and Design, ST 2024-003 Royal Rose Court Parking Lot 3rd Avenue East, CS 25018 1005th Street, 5th Avenue East, STA 2024-008 and 1399 2nd Avenue East. Okay, so all of those are Owen Sound site plan approvals. So with that, I will ask for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Gregg, seconder. Thank you. I'll take Councillor Carleton to second. It's now on the floor, and Madam Clerk, you are at the lectern and ready to address this. Thank you.
Thank you. So the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee is a committee which includes 7 of our 9 member municipalities. It is required by AOTA that all municipalities with a population of 10,000 or more shall have an accessibility advisory committee. Municipalities may form joint committees instead of establishing their own if they choose to do that. From Southgate at this meeting on May 15th, the committee heard a proposal on upgrades to the Dundalkin District Community Center in the McIntyre Building. A platform and ramp system is planned to be installed in the community center for viewing the ice surface. And the McIntyre Building will see automated access doors, automated washroom doors, and upgrades to washroom hardware and a new vestibule. No comments were received on that item at this meeting. There was next a presentation on the proposed washroom upgrades from the Township of Georgian Bluffs for the Shallow Lake Arena. They had, Georgian Bluff Council had prioritized the need to renovate the interior and exterior washrooms at the facility to make them more accessible. There will be 5 new gender neutral stalls installed on the ground floor of the building, and one of those stalls will be fully accessible. Will include an infant change table and functions as a family washroom as well. If there is sufficient budget, the renos will be continued to the former referee's change room to make it a fully accessible change room. The proposed changes to the washrooms in the exterior building include conversion of the former concession stand into 2 gender-neutral accessible washrooms, and the doors will be fully automated and can be locked overnight remotely if each night. They will continue to operate seasonally. There were questions and feedback received on drainage and water as in response to that proposal. Next was the an item from the City of Owen Sound. They spoke to the intersection of 9th Ave East and 6th Street East, which is the intersection down here at the corner. Connecting Link funding has been received and will assist in the rehabilitation of this intersection, including for improvements around accessibility. There was a note that it is very difficult with this particular intersection to be fully compliant with AOTA, but they're making improvements to accessibility of the intersection. Proposals include sidewalk ramps at all crossing points, except for the northwest corner because of land constraints and the location of underground infrastructure. The ramp will slope a little differently at this location, which will be similar to a driveway. There was significant discussion on the hydro pole and the island that it is located on. It's considered a fixed obstacle or a fixed object due to the time and the cost and the complexity of moving that pole. The committee did suggest in the end to remove that crossing to the island altogether, as it's not an ideal place for a pedestrian to be. There were questions and feedback on the slope of the sidewalk and turning radius at the at each of the corners for scooters and mobility devices. The committee also heard an update on the outcomes of the recent AOTA desk audit, which Grey County was selected for. An age-friendly review was provided from an accessibility perspective, and there was information provided on Ontario Building Code updates and age-friendly communities committee update as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So with that, then I'll put it out then to committee of the whole members if they have any questions or comments. Excellent. Indeed, I do think it is valuable for us to work on this as a joint advisory committee because you really do learn from the other municipalities as well. So it's a good idea. It's a good way to share exchanges of good practices that are out there. Thank you. Okay, so with that, then I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, we'll go to item 7B, and this is recommended that report PDR CW 3825 be received and that all written and oral submissions on official plan amendment number 26 were considered and helped to make an informed recommendation and decision, and that proposed county official plan amendment number 26 on lands legally described as Lot 18, Concession 13, Geographic Township of Proton, now in the Township of Southgate, be approved to redesignate a portion of the subject lands from rural and hazard lands to rural with exceptions and hazard lands, and that a bylaw to adopt the county official plan amendment be prepared for consideration by county council. And we will have our intermediate planner, Dillman, will come forward and speak to that. But first, I would like to get that motion on the floor. It's moved by Deputy Warden and seconded by Councillor Patterson. So we've now got it on the floor. And with that, then I will look to staff to make an introduction.
Okay, I think that is all up there. Perfect. Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. Thank you. My name is Cassandra Dillman, and I am the county planner assigned to this file. So the site, the land's on the northeast corner of Gray Road 9 and Side Road 13. They're right beside the Township of Southgate Administration Building and the Public Work Yard. So the property has frontage on Gray Road 9, and it's approximately 42 hectares in size. And you can see in the aerial image there, the property contains an existing residential dwelling. It has a barn and a shop, and those are associated with an existing on-farm diversified use. That is the lumber yard, and rezoning for that was approved in 2022. So the applicant is seeking to expand the storage areas with that existing on-farm diversified use. So that would include an expansion of the outdoor storage area and a new storage building. The property is designated rural and hazard lands, and the amendment would have the effect of redesignating the lands to rural with a site-specific exemption, and hazard lands. And the area there in red, that would be the portion of the property that the amendment would apply to. So more specifically, the expansion would result in increasing that overall area associated with the on-farm diversified use. So that's the area inclusive of all the buildings, the laneways, the parking, and the outdoor storage areas. So that area would increase by 1,300 meters squared, and the county plan currently permits a maximum of 8,000 meters squared. So I will also note that there is a Southgate official plan amendment application and a zoning bylaw amendment that would be required to recognize this and then to implement that proposed expansion. So these applications have been reviewed concurrently along with that county official plan amendment application. The more specifically, again, into the wording for the exception, would recognize and limit that on-farm diversified use to that of a lumber yard and the retail sale of lumber, and then having a maximum area of the 9,300 square meters. So this is the applicant's site plan. That solid red area in the top right, it's labeled B3. That's the proposed storage building. Then there's two areas that are a red hatch. They have a label of F and E, if you can read that. And those are the proposed outdoor storage areas. They're right adjacent to the trees on the site plan there. So the outdoor storage area would continue to be located on the side and towards the rear of that on-farm diversified use area. And that results in a less of a visual impact from the county road and from those neighboring properties. The storage building would also be located in a previously disturbed area behind that existing shop. In terms of comments received, so there was no concerns identified. I can note that the Conservation Authority requested a revision to the hazard mapping, essentially for it to be made smaller and to better represent those site conditions. County Transportation Services, they also requested that the existing entrance be paved to meet our current standards. No public comments were received in writing or at the public meeting. And then more recently, local township council has also provided support for OPA 26 through a staff report and a resolution. Some of the key policy considerations that I would like to note, and they are detailed in the report as well, but the provincial planning statement permits on-farm diversified uses on rural lands in accordance with provincial standards. So the most up-to-date provincial standards that we have are the guidelines on permitted uses in Ontario's prime agricultural areas. So that document identifies that there's certain criteria to be met in order to be considered as an on-farm diversified use. So for example, the use must be located on a farm, that the use must be spatially secondary to the principal agricultural use on the property. Another one of those criteria is that it's limited in area. So the guidelines recommend that the standard of 2% of a farm parcel to that maximum of 10,000 meters squared, or 1 hectare in size, be occupied by the on-farm diversified use. So, and then just to sort of reiterate, the proposed expanded on-farm diversified use would occupy 9,300 meters squared, and then would represent about 2.2% of the property. And the recommendation, just in a summary there, is that the official plan amendment be approved and a bylaw be prepared for council consideration. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll put it out then for committee of the whole members if they have any questions or comments. And if we could just let me see the virtual screen as well. Okay, not seeing anything around the horseshoe here. Can we confirm? Okay, and I don't see any hands virtually as well. So, all right, I think you've done an excellent job in explaining what it is. Thank you very much for both the written report and your presentation. So I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. We will move on now to item, oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Thank you for the reminder. I think this is a good time for us to take a break at 7C is where we'll pick it up again. And if we could do a 10-minute break and reconvene at 11:25. Good suggestion. Thank you. Okay, we are at 11:25, so I'm going to invite all of our committee of the whole members to return to the horseshoe. All right, well, we do have a quorum, so we will keep moving to 7C while we have a few more people come back and join us. And so for 7C, the recommendation is that report EDTC CW 0525 regarding the Rural Transit Solutions Fund be received, and that the County of Gray supports proceeding with the Rural Transit Solution Fund project, and that in collaboration with its partners undertakes a request for proposal process to prepare a rural transit solutions study, and that the warden and clerk be authorized to sign the Rural Transit Solutions funding agreement. And we'll have a staff introduction with Ms. Stewart shortly, but let me just ask for a mover and a seconder to get it on the floor for discussion. Moved by Councillor Dickert, seconded by Councillor McQueen. So it's now on the floor for discussion. So welcome and thank you, Ms. Stewart.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good morning, County Council. It's been a while since I saw you last, but I am happy to be here with some good news. As some of you saw the press release the last week, there is more good news coming. We just aren't able to chat about it just yet. But in this exact moment, we can talk about the funding that we have received from the federal government, which is an investment of $50,000 towards our RFP, which is going to be the base of our study, and what we need to move this larger project forward. So this is just the first piece of the puzzle. We're also in partnership with Bruce County and Dufferin County and Saugeen Mobility, who are also contributing to this larger project as a whole. So today I'm just here to ask for your permission to begin this study, begin the work to start the RFP, to put out a proposal to acquire someone who will be qualified to do the study, and help develop our future plan for our Tri-County regional transit system. Any questions I can answer for you?
Okay, thank you very much. So we will ask members of the committee of the whole, begin with Councillor McQueen.
Thank you, Madam Warden, and thanks for the great news. I did speak to a fella at FCM at a booth that talked about a bit of a plan, and he was very enthusiastic. I can't tell you his name because he didn't give me his card, but I kept seeing him and he kept talking about this. It was sort of a new approach. And I don't know, you know who I'm speaking about? Because I kept saying, you're going to be the next bus driver. I kept saying, joking with him, and he kept, but anyway, it was at the booth. But anyway, it's just funny how in Ottawa, we were talking about Grey County Transit. So I don't know, can you share me his name? I didn't quite capture his name, but maybe you don't know it offhand. But anyway, he shared me the enlightening of the part of this proposal moving forward.
Yep, shaking.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. At this time, I'm not exactly sure who you were speaking with. I've been working with a number of gentlemen and people across the industry to develop this plan to make sure that it was sound. So I can definitely come back at a later date to discuss more details.
I can confirm it was Emerson Diodone. Yep. So yeah, he indeed was very enthusiastic when he saw that there was a good contingency from Grey County. Okay, thank you. Councillor Eccles.
I guess in the recommendation, I'm to prepare a rural transit solution. I thought we already had a rural transit system in place and whatnot. So what are we sending an RFP out for? Because we have transit, we have SMART, we have all of this. It's not really to prepare a transit solution, is it? Or is it amalgamation of the groups that we have? Clarification. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, So it's a combination of all of what you just suggested. So it's going to look at all of that, and we're going to come back with a costing and a detailed plan of how might we do not an amalgamation, but a collaboration of the services that do exist, and where can we improve and how can we utilize vehicles more wisely to just get more people moving from point A to point B, and also integrate better with Dufferin County and Bruce County and our specialized transit agency, Saugee Mobility. So just kind of coming at it from all of us at the same table, talking to make the best plan possible for our residents. Currently, yes, we do have systems in place. They're just fragmented and we're not really talking as well as we could. So this plan will be done by a third party to look at the costing, the schedules, how we might put services in place, and how we can get people moving from point A to point B most efficiently and effectively.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Just looking online, looking around, and we'll go to Councillor Macri.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Thank you, Stephanie, for the report. Are there other transit agencies, and I think of Home and Community Support Services, that have they been contacted? Are they opting out because their name's not within the report, and are there any other agencies that we need to be reaching out to when we're doing this wholesome study? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor, through you, Madam Warden. So they are not currently in our application. So we will definitely be consulting all stakeholders. All agencies will have an opportunity to collaborate and work with us if they feel our solution is appropriate for their needs. I did contact them prior to submitting our application, so they were aware of our plans. And I know that Saugee Mobility has also been in contact with them. So they will be a huge partner at the table. But at this exact moment, they're not a financially contributing partner, but there's always opportunities for them to join in.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to alternate Councillor Allwood.
Thank you, Warden, through you. Uber had a presence at Roma, and they were talking, I was talking to those group of people about their efforts to be part of a solution. I wondered if they're part of the stakeholder group that you're talking to.
Thank you, Councillor, through you, Madam Warden. All businesses will have an opportunity to bid and be a part of the process. At this moment in time, we haven't selected anyone. So if they would like to join the conversation, we'd be more than happy to have them.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, I don't see any further hands go up, so thank you very much for that update. I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to item 7D now, and it's recommended that report CSR CW 1825 be received for information, and that the correspondence be sent to the Provincial Ministry of Education and the Federal Ministry of Jobs and Families to advise of local directed growth pressures and the impact of target and funding reductions for expanding childcare spaces, and that the correspondence be sent to our local MPs and MPPs. And we will have Ms. Cockrell and Director Shaw speak to it, but first let me look for a mover and a seconder. Moved by the Deputy Warden, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. It's now on the floor for discussion. Welcome.
Thank you, Warden. Good morning, County Council. Our report today is here to provide you with an update as to our local directed growth plan. As previously reported, Ontario has partnered with the federal government to develop the CWELC, or the Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare System, to make childcare more affordable for families, with the goal of having those rates at a cap of $12 per day by 2026. Pardon me. The current agreement does end in 2026, and we're waiting for some updates from the province as to their negotiations with the federal government. An update for our current participation with the CWELC system. Currently, there are 39 licensed sites and our directly operated home child care agency enrolled in the CWELC system, and that totals 1,739 spaces where parents pay a maximum of $22 a day in Grey County. Participating centers receive base funding through the county from the CWELC system to cap those fees at $22. And again, that funding will also support them in that parent fee dropping to $12 in 2026. In Q1, reporting from operators indicated there were close to 3,000 children on their wait lists across Grey County. That does include the possibility for some duplications as families can be on more than one waiting list. And it's important to note that we're not sure when those start dates were. So we're not indicating that there are 3,000 children looking for care today, but there's certainly a vast number. Across Grey County, the licensed spaces that we have for children under 6 are operating about an 85% of their licensed capacity. The majority of those reductions are due to staffing constraints. Our initial allocation for these new spaces for growth in Grey County was 504. After we submitted a report to the province, they increased our allocation to 644 spaces to be developed by 2026. This spring, the ministry revised our targets and we have seen a reduction in those spaces to 515. This because of our progress that we have made to date. We have one project in progress in Markdale. When that is complete, we will have reached that 515 space target. For our financial impact, our operating funding was reduced by $702,000. We did receive $2.7 million in capital startup funding for nonprofits. However, as we have met that target, we cannot utilize that funding at this time. So our next are some more impacts for that. So there can be no new childcare growth approved without additional provincial funding. So the numbers that we have currently are where we are held. We're currently reviewing other resources to ensure that stability with ongoing collaborations with other municipalities, looking with OMSA and things like that. And we're hoping for your support to continue to advocate to the province and the federal government to at least get that space allocation back, if not increased. I can share that we keep a list of centers that wish to either expand or move to Grey or open in Grey. And our current listing, that would be 789 spaces that have indicated interest in opening in Grey without even putting out a request for any other interest. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Okay. Any questions? We'll go to the deputy warden.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Thank you, Tara, for the report. Do we have any idea where in the province would be deemed more growth pressure than Grey County, or why this has been shifted other than to say, no, you're not getting that, it's going over here? Please.
Great habits. Through you, Warden, that's a great question, Councillor Milne. The province has indicated that they have redistributed the expansion spaces across the province to areas they felt were more prepared to expand within that 2026 timeline. They did use October, I believe, 2024 data to make those decisions.
Thank you for that. So it begs the question then, if we had the agreement with the feds, or sorry, the province had the agreement with the feds to put this many childcare spaces in Grey County, is there an argument to be made to the federal government to say, no, this was the allocation based on your money. The province has arbitrarily moved it over here. And I guess that's the premise of your report, is to say, fix this, please, Mr. Federal Government. Thank you.
Thank you for those that comment and that question, Councillor Milne, and that is exactly why the motion that's before council today to consider is to provide this information both to the Provincial Ministry of Education as well as the Federal Ministry of Jobs and Families, and to also share with our local MPs and our local MPPs, just to reiterate and reinforce the concern about losing the spaces that are desperately needed here in Grey County. This is truly about being able to move forward with workforce retention and attraction. And if we don't have adequate childcare spaces, then that's going to be affecting our pipeline with respect to from a workforce perspective. So we need those childcare spaces as our communities continue to grow. And so with the reduction, it just puts us further back. And there's a disconnect we see obviously between the reduction on the childcare spaces, but the increase in funding and from a capital perspective, we can advance some of those projects using capital dollars if we had the spaces allocated to us. And so that's why the recommendation that's before council today is to submit letters to both province and federal government, as well as to our local MPs and local MPPs.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to Councillor Greig.
Thank you for the report, Tara. And through the warden question, there's a lot for me to try to, I thank you for continuing to educate me on this program, because on the surface, this looks like a great idea that was put out there in a federal stage for a program to benefit everyone without being thought through. And then when you're trying to actually practically roll it out, it's very hard to execute, and there's problems and challenges all over the place. So my question is, in the financial resource implications, it notes at this time, the revised allocation will continue to support the current commitments to local operators. However, staff are undertaking analysis to determine the ability to support all programs if they were to operate at their full license capacity. The question is there an undiagnosed financial liability to the local taxpayer for a federal program here, or you're just looking at different programs that are contained within, that's my question. Is there a shortfall here that the local taxpayer might be expected to pick up?
Through you, Warden, thank you for the question. At this time, we do not anticipate any shortfall. We just want to ensure that when we get those centers to 100% capacity, there isn't an operating shortfall that we need to go back to the province to address. The formula to calculate those rates has been beneficial to our local area. It's the same calculation across the province, and as some of our rates were lower, the majority of our centers have seen an increase that has helped stabilize their operating. So we don't have a concern. We just want to continue to forecast that we're going to be okay.
So when they are putting the program together, do they use the same cost estimates for, there's essentially the expenses of operating the facility plus profit. But like many services and goods, it's much more expensive in Toronto, for example, than in Grey County, potentially. So is it an equal cost sharing, or do they actually at the province or federally assume that there is a higher cost and a greater need to allocate fixed dollars towards higher cost centers?
For you, Warden. So the province does allocate a percentage of the base rate. So Toronto would, for instance, get 100%. Grey County gets 80% of that dollar amount. So there's a multitude of different calculations that go into the allocation. And so our centers get 80% of that, taking into just what you said, rents could be higher in Toronto. Some of the costs are similar. Staff wages, food is generally a similar cost in childcare. But there are definitely some differences that the province has taken into consideration.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Oh, we're going to go online to Councillor Dobreen.
Thank you. Through you, Warden Matrosovs. Tara, a lot of numbers. Your report indicates that we're currently at the allocation that they have just granted us for 2026 at 515. And you mentioned that you have interest and ability to fill 729 spaces if we had been allocated those spaces. Does any of that factor in the new school in Dundalk that was to have additional spaces allocated to its daycare in the school, the childcare in the school? Thank you.
Through you, Warden, thank you for the question. We did reach out to the Ministry of Education about that, and they have stated that because it's past the 2026 completion date, there will be a new agreement in place. And because it's all part of the Ministry of Education, they will take that into consideration with whatever our next allocation could look like.
follow up? Follow up?
Yes, please.
Thank you. And just so that to that point, I think it's important to say that if we had adequate funding and the space is allocated, we're prepared to grow our and fill 729 spaces.
For you, Warden. At this time, that is that is how many spaces have indicated they would like to potentially open in Gray. We don't have any committed spaces, pardon me, or contracts with anyone else because we knew where we were at. I'm just keeping a list. We frequently get calls from centers in other municipalities that would like to expand in this area and things like that.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I'll just look around the room one more time. I don't see any further hands up. So thank you for walking us through the complexities of that. And with that, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. And we do not have any closed session matters to consider on this agenda. So our other business, I did ask for us just to slot a little bit of time in for updates from the 2025 FCM conference. Because it was held in Ontario this year, that did make it a little bit more accessible for more of us to attend. And we had a very good contingency from Grey County. It was lovely to see. So I just thought we should just take a moment in this agenda, and I'll just ask each of the members that were present at FCM, just because it does give us that extra scope. We're all very busy. There's lots of good attendance from around the Horseshoe at our Ontario-wide conferences, but this was that extra layer of opportunity to interact with people from right across the country. So I think that one just warrants a little bit of sharing. So I see online, I'm going to go to Councillor Dobreen first, then to Councillor Bourdignon, and I would invite any of the other members present here in person that attended to just pick one highlight. Just pick one highlight that you found. I know it's going to be difficult, Councillor Dobreen, but just pick one. You start us off, and then everybody else can add one to it, because I'm sure we would agree on a lot of the positiveness of attending that conference. So
Absolutely, and thank you, Warden. And I actually was seeking clarification about the item, the consent item, with regard to the Grey Roots roofing repairs. Did we just, I'm sorry if I missed it. I may have in one of my coughing episodes, but
no, it's okay. It's still coming. We wanted to put it at the end of the agenda, so don't worry about that. But
right,
go ahead with the FCM part.
Well, I have to say that it was a whirlwind of meetings and workshops, but it probably the highlight is the greatest opportunity to meet with our fellows from across Canada and learn from and have those conversations over a meal, coffee, and just having chats about the same issues we're all facing and some innovative solutions that others are coming up with. So Grey County is watched very closely for being a little bit forward and taking innovative steps. So congratulations to our county as a whole.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to Councillor Bourdignon.
Thank you, Madam Warden, and through you. Great conference with Councillor Dobreen and many others. We did a lot of workshops. I'll give you two quick takeaways. One, practical. We found a company out of Burlington that does rollouts for ice rinks that go on top of all these pickleball courts and tennis courts that everybody's building. They're very low cost, that our own arena staff can do for a low capital cost, give you 7-8 years longevity. So that was great. I've shared that with our community services director at TBM. But for overall, one message I found consistent throughout Canada is dealing with misinformation and how to deal with that. And we attended a couple seminars on that, on how to get the right message across from a local and an upper tier government in response to misinformation and getting the right information to the right residents. And I found those key factors very important. So there's a lot of takeaways that we can do to help manage that, and we can share with our own internal communication staff. So to me, that was one of the largest wins. So thank you for the time for me to share.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to the Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Madam Warden. And I just quickly want to thank Councillor Bourdignon for his mentorship. I think he told me that was the first conference he had attended as a county councillor, and he did a marvelous job of keeping me out of trouble. And I don't know, he kind of disappeared late in the conference, so I don't know what kind of trouble he get into. The one, the one thing that I did take away was, and it was on the screen, and I forget what session and I forget what speaker, but it said, people will not care what you know until they know that you care. And I thought, that's a keeper, that one. So that's what I learned. Thank you.
Thank you. And I can confirm that Councillor Bourdignon was present and accounted for into the weekend. Okay. And any others that would like to share any highlights? We'll go to Councillor McQueen.
Thank you, Madam Warden. And I would say the opportunity to speak to comrades or whatever across the country and all the different things that, one of the things I learned was a lot of representation in the province of Alberta is they just have counties. They don't have upper or lower tier. It just call themselves a county, which is interesting in that part. I would say that when the Prime Minister spoke, it was very well attended. I didn't get into the room. I had to go upstairs and watch it on TV, but I think importantly, there's some of the announcements that was made there with housing, I think was an important part. The last day, and I don't know, sometimes you have to hang around. Well, two things. The session where they're talking about the resolutions, there was quite a debate and a little bit around climate changes, those that were there and the north, that was sort of interesting. But more importantly, the pollster who was from, maybe I better lean ahead a bit here. The pollster that was from Ottawa, I'm trying to think of the name of the pollster, anyway, there's a young guy about 43 years old. That's how he described himself, how he analyzed the last federal election and the voting and how more, I don't want to get into the specifics, but how it was analyzed and how there was quite a change to normal federal elections and on the issues and the topics. And we know one of the main topics was, and it was quite a shift. And you know, those that are traditionally one party or other party did a switch. And then those that are sort of the younger generation did a switch, which was interesting. And it's all because of the dynamics or the individual issues that they have been dealing with in the last, 5-10 years. And one was cost of living, where the younger generations dealing with that. So I don't know if any others sat in on that. It was sort of late in the afternoon on Sunday, I think it was, but I found I think the slide is probably available, but there was a lot of data. And I think maybe, I'm not sure if it was Councillor Millen mentioned it, but there is a bit of a difference in concern of trust. And I was going to pull it up my phone, so I took some slides on it, but did anybody else sit in on that session where the pollster was talking? I don't know if there's anybody else. I got to pull up I took a few screenshots, but there was concerns around, I get the wording here, and precarity was one, and just the sense of trust and moving forward. So it would be good if others were able to follow up on that slide presentation from that pollster. And it was Abacus, Abacus, Abacus was the pollster. Did you sit on that one, Councilor Miller? Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about, is some of the points that were raised and how they have to sort of, it's a different trust factor. Sure. But it was good.
Thank you. Yes, it was. And that's one of the values when a number of us attend, is that we can all go in different directions too. When it came to the workshops, often you have to make choices. So in addition to all of those wonderful things, yes, I will say a lot of the lunchtime conversations were explaining what an upper and a lower tier were, because we forget that across even things are different across Ontario, but especially across the country, they're quite curious. And when we'd explain about the value of working together on the upper tier level for some big big picture things such as early childhood care that we heard about. There was a lot of nodding heads. It made a lot of sense to people. And I will just say my highlight is the programming gave us lots of choice to explore. I appreciated that there is a good balance between economic sustainability, social sustainability, and environmental sustainability. You could kind of pick and choose which things you attended under one of those three buckets, understanding that they all have to go together, and that just broadens our horizons and helps us learn more. So, all right. So with that, I'll close that off then, and we will return to our item 6K it was. So I will just read out the recommended motion, and then we will call upon Director Myers to speak to it. So 6K, the item that we had pulled from the consent agenda, it's recommended that report EDTC CW 0625 regarding Grey Roots Village unanticipated capital projects 2025 be received, and that the schoolhouse portion of the 2027 Cedar Shingles capital project be advanced to 2025 due to failed inspection, and that the required 3G upgrades to life safety monitoring infrastructure be completed, and that both projects be funded from a combination of year-end surplus and Grey Roots Morriston Village Building Improvements Reserve. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Okay, it's moved by Councillor Carleton, seconded by Councillor Patterson. So it's now on the floor for discussion.
Thank you very much. Good morning, County Council. Not an exciting report to bring to you today. We don't like unanticipated capital expenses, but here we are. There are two purposes to this report. The first one deals with the schoolhouse roof, which was actually planned for a roof replacement 2 years from now. But every year we do an inspection of all of our buildings, and this year that roof is demonstrating failure. We're seeing a lot of rotten spots and a lot of areas where there is leaking beginning. And given the fact that we hold many important artifacts in that space, we do not want that leak to continue or to grow. So what we're asking council is, instead of waiting until 2027 to do that project and repairing it temporarily now, let's move that replacement up so that we can do it now. The roof was done in 2009. The schoolhouse was actually built over a 3-year period by volunteers, staff, and students. So those cedar shingles, they've lasted 16 years. They were made by Grey Roots staff at the time. And what we would like to do through this process is get away from making our own materials all the time to going with industry so that we can get lengthier terms out of those roofs. This one, we expect a replacement would last up to 30 years with where we would like to go. The second deals with a 3G network upgrade, which we got notice on April 30th from our fire safety monitoring company that Rogers is updating all of their cell towers, and the 3G will no longer be monitored. We are on 3G, which means we will not have any fire monitoring in our heritage buildings, and that is just also not an option for us to have. So we need to do this work to upgrade it to 5G before they cut us off. The anticipated quote that they provided is $5,640, which isn't a lot, but in our budgets, that would eat up half of my maintenance budget. So that's why we're coming forward to you. Our hope is that we will find in your surplus this year to be able to pay for some of this, but we know we can't pay for all of it, which is why we would need a combination of any surplus at the end of this year and then also going into our reserves. So the roof project was already anticipated for the reserve. We'll take it out of 2027, move it up, but the 3G was not at all on our radar. So that is why we are before you today. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Gregg, you did pull it. I'll offer you the floor first.
Thank you. And the directors answered a couple of the questions that were not contained in the report initially, and that was the life cycle of the roof and our expectancy of the forthcoming life cycle, as well as the reports stated be funded through a combination of year-end surplus. But I think the director has indicated that if there's a requirement, it's intended from a future surplus and also the reserve not drawing from the 2024 year-end surplus that the county had seen. So those are my two primary questions to be asked. So thanks.
Okay, I'm glad that was valuable. So we'll go over to Councillor Mackey.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Just wondering, the extension or the the lifespan of the new type of roof, is that a similar material? And is 30 years as much as we could get if we looked at, you know, composite type cedar shakes or? Thank you.
That is an excellent question. Through you, Madam Warden. It is a red cedar that we're now looking at. The current roof is a white cedar, so the life expectancy is about half. The reason why we are sticking to cedar shakes now, I mean, council can direct us otherwise, but it's to maintain that historical accuracy. So we don't want to put on a roof that would not have fit that time period, even though it is a replica building. They've done a really good job of making sure that we try and keep that accuracy, which is why we want to stick within the cedar shakes, but instead of a white, go to a red so that we have that longevity.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to the Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Madam Warden, and thank you, Savannah, for the report. And I'm fully supportive of the 3G fire suppression or the fire monitoring system. At first blush, you'd think the cedar shakes and the monitoring panels are not related, but in fact, I would suggest that they are, in the sense that the shakes or the building is a historical representation, but a true historical building would not have a fire monitoring system in it. I'm thinking that if it was up to me to put a new roof on that building, it'd be steel sheets. It'd be a lot cheaper and it'd last a lot more than 50 or 30 years. It would probably last 100 years. And in fact, I think you would see a lot of those early schoolhouses, when it came time to replace the roof, they put sheet steel on it. It was cheap, it was easy to put on, and it lasted a long time. I know the purpose of the report is not to get into the minutia of what kind of roofing we're going to put on, but red cedar shakes are going to cost a fortune to put on there. And I'm just a little hesitant, but anyway, I'll wait until I see the report. I presume a report will come forward if the cost is XYZ, or are we assuming here that we're going to approve proceeding regardless of the cost? Please.
Through you, Madam Warden, that is a really good question too. And it's a conversation that we've had. So, I mean, we can absolutely go back as staff and talk about the type of roof. The initial quote that we received for Cedar Shake was $60,000, which is really high. And part of why we want to go out for an RFQ process to see, is this a real cost? Because this is a 2027 project, we have been saving for these. So right now there's $185,000 planned for 2027 to do these roofs. If there is a better way that we can do it, we are all for it. So we want to work with purchasing to understand exactly what that looks like. So if we want to maintain the historical accuracy of it at the time, cedar's the way we need to go. But I also like your point about those replacements. So let me take that back to staff and have a conversation.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to Councillor Eccles.
Yeah, they're always scared of giving me the mic. Thank you. Probably is a good reason. I guess I look at it, in the schoolhouses beside a building that probably historically, it would have had cedar shakes on that roof. It's called the barn. And yet it's steel. So to Councillor Millen's point, putting a steel roof on it probably for less than $20,000 and getting it, because that's what they are historically. What happened, it's, you don't see any of the old schoolhouses that are still out there that have cedar shakes on it. I agree with Mr. Millen. Go and find what steel's going to cost. You don't need aluminum, probably too much tariff on that.
Okay, thank you. And is on a hand up? We'll go to Councillor McQueen.
Yeah, I just thank you, Madam Warden, and I would agree. I know there are some barns that never got cedar shingles. They went right to steel. And my dad's barn is 1904. There's probably some options there, and probably the traditional would be that, you know, the traditional galvanized, but might be a little bit out there. But there's probably colored steel, or you can get a pattern type steel that's also probably an option, but I would agree that steel is gonna last you a lot long and you have to strap it and all that kind of stuff, but definitely I think when you go out, you should look at all options, right?
Okay, and we're just consulting in terms of process, just because the resolution itself does name cedar shingles. So we'll get back to you on process. I just want to make sure everyone's had a chance to speak. So I think I saw a hand go up over here. Yep, it's Councillor Greg.
And my question is perhaps what you're working on, but right now our purchasing bylaw would not bring this back to council because of the thresholds, unless it's what, 20% or 50% over, or that there'll be a variance in there that I think might trigger it, but otherwise this would not return back to council unless there's an amendment to the motion.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we can explore deferral. We can table this conversation as well and bring it back later when we have further information. First of all, I want to make sure everyone's had a chance to speak. Okay, we'll go to Councillor Carlton.
Just a question then, because we're dealing with two different pieces here, could we separate those out so they can get moving on the one part of it?
Okay, so yes, we can also split the motion because those two are two independent decisions. So that will be something that will help us move forward on some of it. I just want to make sure. Any other questions? Okay, I will just add to the consideration that we've shared in discussion as well, that the Craigleith Heritage Depot went through decision-making in terms of what kind of integrity, and the decision was to keep the turret in the authentic state of the roof, but then to do something compatible for the rest of it. And so I think there might be other examples across the county too that could be explored in terms of how do you deal with that dilemma and make use of the materials. And I guess aluminum roofs, or not aluminum, but metal roofs out there that look like they're the vintage galvanized steel. I wonder if there's a finish out there that helps with that. Okay, we'll go to Councillor Hutchinson.
Thank you, Madam Warden. The other thing I was going to say is to check into composite, because there's companies in Ontario that are recycling plastic, and it looks just like cedar, and it's got quite a long longevity and very competitive in the pricing that we're all talking about. I can give you a lead on it for lead banks.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll go to alternate Councillor Allwood.
Thank you, Warden, through you to Savannah. You mentioned the budget amount in the 2027 10-year capital plan, and I think I heard you say roofs. There's 5 roofs, and this one red cedar shingle roof would be $60,000. Okay, I just wanted to get that figure in my mind. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, through you, Madam Warden. It is 5 roofs, I believe, that are included in that, but the schoolhouse is the largest. All of the other ones are a lot smaller, which is why that budget was developed the way that it was. But I mean, you know me, if there's anywhere that I can save dollars, I will do it. We did a metal roof on the general store when we did it, because it was in keeping with historic looks. It was not cheap, I can tell you that. I don't know what the exact number was, but we are happy to go back and look at this. But if I can ask, if we are going to do that, to split those recommendations, only because our fire monitoring could happen as early as next month. So if we could move forward with that, that would be really appreciated.
Okay. Did you want to speak? Yeah.
So further to what Director Myers has indicated, so recommending that the motion be split so that the 3G upgrades can proceed. And then whether or not it's deferring that other portion, and then staff bringing back a report once we've been able to explore some further options with respect to what we could do with respect to the roof, if that makes sense. I just, from a timing perspective, just because we're dealing with some failed roofing sections, I just want to make sure we're okay from a timing perspective on that.
And through you, Madam Warden, I think our goal is to have this done before the snow flies again, because we're not convinced that it's going to take another winter. So we do have some time right now to go back and do some of that further work. We were just looking at the project we already had to bring forward, but happy to go back.
Okay, thank you. Oh, we'll go to Councillor Dobreen before I'm going to go. So just on the content, because we have the process lined up and ready. So we'll go to Councillor Dobreen.
Thank you, through you, Warden. Would it solve the issue? I don't see where it says that we proceed with the replacement. We're actually moving funding forward that has been earmarked for 2027. That if we were to add a clause and that options to replace the roof be explored and brought back to council, then you could move on with the rest. Is that a consideration?
Councillor Doreen, we have something lined up that's very similar that will introduce options. We're just going to take it in a few separate motions. So,
Okay.
so we'll move forward with that. There will be reference to options. Thank you. Okay, so any further comments about the content of the report? Okay, let's move into several different motions we're going to need to entertain. The first one is I would like to put out, look for a mover and a seconder that the motion be divided to separate the life monitoring item and roofing item into two separate motions. So that moved by Councillor Carlton and seconded by Councillor McKay. It's on the floor for any discussion about splitting. All those in favor? Okay, so we have now separated those two. And if you'll just bear with me, we're going to deal with the roofing part first, and then we'll go back to the life monitoring. So the next portion is, let me see. So we do have it recommended. It's already been moved and seconded. The items are still there, but what we can do is we can add on that the motion be deferred pending further information on options for roofing material. That will make sure that we have the breadth caps encapsulated into the information we're looking for based on today's discussion. So for that, I will need a mover and a seconder that we move that last bit. Moved by the Deputy Warden and seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. It's now on the floor for discussion that we look into the options, and that's why we're deferring. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, that motion is carried. Excellent. And now that allows us then to return back to what was moved and seconded with regards to the upgrades. So then, Madam Clerk, all we need to do is call the question on that one, right? Okay, so on the 3G, is there any further upgrades from 3G? Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none then. So on this portion that was moved and seconded earlier, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Okay, so there you go. Progress right now, and then good information will come forward to us. Thank you very much, Director Myers. I appreciate you being able to walk us through that and all of the thoughtful input that has come forward from the committee, the whole members. Okay, so that was the only item that was closed, that was pulled out of the consent agenda. And as I mentioned, there were no closed session matters. We've already done our other business. So at this point in time, item number 10, I will put out a call. Are there any notices of motion? Any notices of motion to serve? Okay, not seeing any hands go up. In that case, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn, and we will be adjourning at 12:13 p.m. So I have it moved by Councillor McQueen and seconded by Councillor Carlton. And any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, and that carries. Thank you very much, everyone.